This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning everybody. Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve. It's quite a bright and a beautiful morning here. Looking at the impala, looks like they're all alert on lookout in this beautiful open area. We're not sure what they heard. We'll find out probably later on. And welcome aboard to your very own live safari through the African bush. Good morning everybody once again. We now stopped here where this is actually main access to the camp where we got looks like a three male impala, but they're on lookout. So they're not actually, there's no sign of them feeding at all. Probably that they heard something or maybe they sensed something because they have a greater sense of a smell. And my name is Andrew this morning. I have Davy on camera. This is how we're going to begin the safari search around. Oops. Was a once alarm call, but some of alarm call we can hear from distances. Maybe they're trying to respond from that. So we all found out what is happening. It's quite a bright and early, and the sun that is shining throughout, as you can see. And the temperature of today is sitting on 17 degrees Celsius, 63 Fahrenheit. Remember, we're coming to you live from this location, so you can communicate with us or using hashtag Wild Earth on Twitter, also at FC on YouTube channel. If you are under the age of 18, you can pop us an emails on kids questions at wildearth.tv. Or some of you, those haven't really been part of the show, registers, you can go register on the Wild Earth website and head over to the live safari page and you can submit your questions there. We will tag them, answering them live from here right now. So let's take a look at the weather. Good morning everybody and welcome to And Beyond Ngala this morning. What a beautiful morning it is. It seems like the weather is sunny pretty much everywhere else. And although the sun is out, it's a bit chilly this morning. Kind of from the 1st of March, it was weird. It was like on the day it started to feel a bit cold and the seasons are starting to change slowly. Good morning, I'm Daniel Fisher and on camera this morning we've got Odie. So what I've done is kind of come into the eastern part of the area of the reserve, and then why I've done that is those lions last night, which we've actually confirmed to be the Mayambula Pride. So they've come from far north of us in the Timbavati, and they're kind of seeming to establish a territory here, competing with the Birmingham Pride, what we think the Skora Pride as well, and seeming to settle in here quite nicely for the meantime. So I've kind of head up here. There's quite a lot of general game. There was a large group of wildebeest up ahead. There's also a hyena that is taking it very easy this morning. It looks like it's had an exhausting night. Just lying down, fast asleep already. I mean, there's a very good chance those lions walked right past you last night. Maybe the hyena even picked up on their scent, trying to keep up and follow them, see if they won't be successful with a kill, and maybe there'll be a few scraps left over. I mean, a hyena covers a large distance in the evenings looking for food. Any kind of opportunity, whether it be a young animal, an injured animal. Oh, there's a little bit of a head up. Having a listen. The lighting's actually glowing that hyena's almost mane on the back of its head. The grass as well. There's quite a lot of moisture in the grass this morning. I'm looking forward to these beautiful misty mornings in the next few weeks. You'll see it starts to get very chilly, and maybe a little bit of a prediction, and it might be very wrong, but I think we're setting in for a very cold winter. We've had a very wet summer without too many hot days, so we're kind of getting ready for it. And you'll see this hyena, I'm sure, throughout the course of the morning might move positions. It looks like today's going to be a warm day. It has started off quite chilly, but it'll warm up very quickly. Maybe move from this position, which is going to be in direct sunlight. As the sun gets higher, maybe move into a shady spot, maybe go to a small little watering hole. If it gets incredibly hot, you may even find this hyena sleeping in the watering hole for the day. There's wildebeest. They're coming out in the far distance there. But it's a beautiful open area, this. So this gives us a real good chance to look. I mean, the grass isn't too high in this part of the reserve either. The game density is very high as well. Lots of impala around, lots of wildebeest. And that's what I'm kind of hoping those lions that my Mbula Pride has come this way for. I mean, I am on a boundary at the moment. On the left-hand side of me is the Kruger Park, and on our right-hand side is Ngala. So I'm just going to keep hanging around here, trying to see if we can't see any tracks coming in. Their direction was heading straight, almost out of the property last night. But they looked like they were kind of desperate to hunt. And with these wildebeest coming in like this, that would have been a great opportunity. Obviously, there's not much cover around here. We were mentioning the shorter grass, and the moon would have been quite bright last night, giving the wildebeest quite a good advantage. But you see, I mean, even the distance between this hyena and those wildebeest, this hyena is not really interested in hunting those wildebeest like this. You'll see it maybe get up and walk towards the wildebeest, just kind of assessing its opportunities, trying to see if there's maybe an injured one, maybe a late calf, in fact. But those wildebeest are all looking pretty strong. There's actually, I don't know if you can see it, Odie, right at 12 o'clock. It looks like there's a giraffe that's just popped its head out. Izzy, do we see hyenas much on Ngala? The answer to your question is yes. We've actually got an incredibly high population of hyenas, particularly in the eastern part of the reserve here. There are lots and lots of them. You often see them moving around just on their own, and only around big carcasses do you see them in these big groups, particularly with the interesting lion dynamics that we have around at the moment. There's lots of competition between the lions and the hyenas. And this large lion presence actually puts a bit of pressure, on the rest of the predators. But because they're feeding quite regularly, that'll often provide a lot of scraps and a lot of easier meals for these hyenas. But we've got a very high population of hyenas at Ngala. So I'm going to keep going along the road here, try and see if we can find any tracks of these lions coming maybe back into the property. But for the meantime, I'm going to send you over to Lauren.
Talking of hyenas, we've just bumped into Swazi in our camp. But I want to introduce you to my friend who has been on my jacket the entire morning. And I've become rather attached to him. This is an ant lion. Another one of my favorite insects. I am Lauren, and I do have Impo on camera. And I'm too scared to move. I don't want him to fly away. I want you to get the best visuals. I'm going to turn it around, Impo. No, I actually don't know how to do this. going to be creative. I want you to see his face. He's cleaning, so we can get some really, really good close-up views. Now, ant lions are named after their very, very said to look like, well, a lion. Can you believe it? And you can see this insect's body perfectly. You can see the compound eyes, they're not simple eyes, the really structured antenna, the 6 legs, and the really, really long abdomen. They've got quite an extraordinary long... Oh dear, I don't know how to turn that radio off. And there's lots of excitement with leopards going on this morning. Andrew is on his way there. Paul, I'm going to have to turn that off, I'm afraid. You gotta love the Game Drive radio. And yes, you can tell by the gorgeous coloration of the wing here. That's how you can identify. It's not the bushveld antlion, but it's an antlion all the same. And I don't know if Impo's able to show you. They've got really sort of sharp little feet at the end of the legs that's sort of forked. And this is what they cling onto. So I'm going to try and keep this guy as long as I can, but let's send you over to Andrew and see what's going on over there.
Thank you very much, Lauren. And then we got it now here. Looks like a Kara on top of that tree, marula tree. And then looks like also Shidulu on the base of the tree. So we've got 2 cats in the same area. Probably been together for maybe a while. Guys spot their tracks and we're moving all along together along the road. Leopards love trees, being on top of the tree, but this is not all about hunting at the moment. Looks like she's also busy communicating there. A little bit of a sound she's making is probably because of the mother on the ground. Leopard, a very solitary animal. I agree, everyone. It's so special to start with the spotted cat, though, especially on top of the tree. She's really attempting to come down. Oops. Oh, the mother on turning as well. It's going to be pro. probably a lot of a growl at each other here. So as a mother and daughter, Sharon, so you're asking if Kara is independent now. Yes, she's independent. Pretty much independent. So what we're seeing here going on is all about won't tolerate one another again. Because she's already been rejected by the mother. So she's pretty much fully independent. Oops. Somebody's got to get away. This behavior that is happening right here, very much happening quite a lot on the leopards, mother and daughter, when they are, one is independent. Whenever they meet up together, it's all about this, growl at each other and all separate, each one move on its own direction. Because they are very much solitary animals that don't move in group. So this is going to be probably going for a while before they all separate. And they're both mainly up in the west. So it looks like all about linking itself. And leopards do that when they are chill and relax. They use their tongue, lick the paws and wipe their face. Get themselves a clean around their mouth. Lion also do that. I agree, everyone. You're saying you're loving really seeing leopard up in a tree together. It's also so special about this sighting. And then Kara, it looks like the way she's communicating there, she's comfortable with getting close to the mother, but the mother won't really accept her because she's already independent. was a kara. Again, you saying the sounds, it's incredible indeed. It was the loudest sound that kara made just now. Well, Shidula knows exactly this is her daughter. This is going to be really fatal there. It's going on closer together very much now. And the carriage just went to the edge of that branches where there's no way further than that for her. So happy that mother just turned back a little bit and chill off. She back off a little bit to the position where she were. I don't know, maybe she'll come down. Yes, looks like she's coming down off the ground. On the ground. Yeah, looks like she just went lay down there, and the Karash is about to also get close to that fork of the tree. I'm gonna stay put here.
It's the month of March and Wild Earth is offering you the chance to win a brand new prize. Sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer and you could win a 5-day eco-training ranger experience for 2. Eco-training is the pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. The lucky winners can look forward to approaching dangerous game on foot, tracking and 4x4 driving, learning about animal behavior, and even spending one night sleeping out under a blanket of stars. In addition, you will also get the exclusive opportunity to join the Wild Earth team on the broadcasting vehicle. Sign up to be an explorer now, and it could be you that wins this life-changing experience. Terms and conditions apply.
My dear, I do find you most attractive when you're covered in bird lice. Oh, Charles, I love it when you peck at my head and clean the bird lice off me. Let me say hello to Barry here. Hello, Barry. I'm just going to examine you for some bird lice. Charles, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. Oh, all right. I shall look for bird lice for myself then.
Hi everyone, my name's Daniel Fisher and I'm going to be your guide this afternoon. I'm looking really forward to taking you through and showing you all the beautiful places here at And Beyond Ngala. If you have any questions, please register on our website. Once registered, go to the live page feed and post your questions underneath the live feed. Join me on my next safari through And Beyond Ngala on Wild Earth. Send me live questions through the Wild Earth website and I'll answer them live from the African bush.
Hello, Mama. Just checking us out, everybody. There's no aggression here. Very relaxed. A herd of elephants moving around your car like that is truly, truly magical.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Eco Training Pridelands. Where we've got a wonderful little family harem of zebras out in Impala Plains, where it is quite a warm 20 degrees Celsius already, 68 degrees Fahrenheit. It feels already warmer than that. I hope you're all having a wonderful start to your day. What a way to start with a couple of leopards. I haven't seen Shudulu in ages. Hello, everybody. My name is Steve, joined by Gert on camera. And as always, we're very excited to have you with us. Now, we're going to go back to our zebras. And we're just going to spend a few moments to listen to the sounds of the bush while we wait for your questions to come through with regards to pridelands, anything we might be able to answer. It's hard for me to say what is their best sense, but they got very good eyesight. Their nostrils are enormous and they got pretty good ears. So I'd say all three of them are pretty in tune. So which one is the strongest between them? It's possibly smell. Many animals have got enormous nostrils. Obviously the large nostrils also helps with the intake of oxygen. Assists with running, as we all know horses are fantastic runners. But they are very alert individuals as well. But we're probably going to move on from our zebras. We're going to see if we can track down our lone lioness again this morning, and we send you back over to Andrew, who's having a cat-filled morning.
Good luck, Steve. Now we got a Kara still on top of this marula tree, which mother have already got down, and then she make her way out of here to the west. Where the boundary is not far away, the Triple M boundary, she might cross to the west there if she moved that far. Okay, good. Two vehicles with us in this area, so that's what you're hearing. And other guys, they're gonna follow and Chidulu see if she cross west, and we're gonna stick with Kara. In this situation where these girls growing bigger, and the mother would definitely gonna make sure that she have her own territory. But this is gonna continue to happen because they meet up along the borderline of theirs, both. And every time they're hooked up, it's all about growling at each other. One has to move out. Nova, so you're asking if they ever... Oh, the mother came back. With the full speed, she's on the base of the tree now. So Nova, you're asking if they ever fall out the tree while sleeping. No, that's very rare. Well, they got to make sure they balance enough when they take serious nap in the tree. So if the branches is not comfortable enough, they rather stay awake or go down or choose another branches which is suitable for them to take that nap so they don't fall off. You can see Chidulu's tail, so she ran back to the base of the tree over here. Looks like she's really, really serious about getting her daughter out of the way. James, so you're saying hopefully they both are avoiding injuring each other? And then, yeah, I also hope so that if this growl at each other's, and this is where one or mother definitely, she's going to move off permanently. Unless if maybe this girl, she stick right far behind her always. And this growl probably going to go for the whole day though, not to hunt. Jelly asking how old is Kara, I'm not sure, but she probably above 2.5 years, I think, somewhere there. So she's actually full grown. I'm not full grown, but she's already far independent. Female now. And when they mother reject their young one, and that's got to be around there 2 years old. It looks like Shidulu just walked out again. Such a beautiful face of this little cat. So Anthony asking from how high the leopard can jump down. I mean, there we were looking at this cat there, it's far too much. Maybe 30 meters, it's far. And then it's got to be anything from 2.5 meter to 3 meter. That would take a chance to jump down if it's emergency. But many of these trees that we have here, their fork of these trees started from anything like 1.5 meters high. And it's a fork that many of the leopards would use them to jump from that fork. Whenever they come down, and they reach the fork, and then from there they just jump down. And it looks like the mother now have walk. Just gonna see if she walk permanently for now, or temporarily. Maybe she will return back here. But as the car looks like comfortable, coming down slightly. She probably got a visual confirm that the mother has walked away from her. So we're just gonna see if she come down. She's probably gonna jump from that fork or slightly below that fork. Now she's busy deducting, because the mother was on top of the tree here as well, so she's smelling around. But to keep on scent of the mother recognition, they always recognize one another. The time is not bad. Probably eaten. Not sure when, maybe last night or yesterday. we're just gonna see. She might actually see that the mother's very serious about not to tolerate her. Maybe she walks separate away from here, or she will remain in this tree. So we're gonna stay put here, see what she's gonna do. It's Cara. In the meantime, I will be sending you across to Steve.
Thanks, Andrew. Good luck and enjoy your morning. We've caught up with a nice, decent-sized elephant bull. Busy grazing. Pulling up the nice, delicious grasses underneath the shaded tree. Lots of moisture in the grass at the moment. Very relaxed. You see his tail. Feeding on some Woltheria as well. Slowly walking with a general direction towards a leopard dam. It might be his intended purpose. When you track animals and you find their sort of route seems to be in a general direction, it's always a good idea to go and check the water. They know the water's there. Water is something that many animals will visit a few times a day. Then after drinking, they'll move away from the water and then just be feeding very slowly until eventually turning around and going all the way back or making their way to another water source. So knowing those sort of topographical or geographical sort of, let's move up, landmarks, will save you an enormous amount of time. Obviously this time of year as well, there is quite a bit of freestanding water still. Little pans and puddles that I haven't even yet investigated. It's time for a little bit of bush, a little bit of sickle bush. Sickle bush many of them are in full fruit at the moment. Okay, we'll follow this elephant for a little while, see where he heads to, and in the meantime we'll send you down the road to Ambianagala.
Welcome back, everybody. And what we have here, we found a young giraffe. Looks like a female giraffe as well. And the mother of this giraffe has just moved off to the left, so out of picture. But let's stick with this younger one for now. Seems to be feeding. I can't see exactly what tree it is. We're quite far away. I didn't want to move too much closer in case it moved off. But you see how it's just pulling, using, I mean, even at such a young age, it's got that very obvious long neck, which is the advantage to get to the places in the tree that other animals can't get to. Just feeding there, tail swishing. I'm sure there's a few insects flying around that giraffe, a few flies and things like that. The reason I say that is I've got a few flies flying around me here, and I wish I had a tail to kind of swish them away. Luckily, I've got some hands. There were some oxpeckers on the back there. It seems like they've flown off. Kind of putting its head right into that tree. I wouldn't even be surprised if there's a few kind of tree species growing in that bush. Looks like there might be a buffalo thorn on the right-hand side. I mean, beautiful spot pattern as well. The spots there quite light in color as well. So you'll see the females and the males are born with these lighter spots. And there's so maybe a little bite from one of those biting flies. And born with these lighter spots, and a female like this will very likely stay the same color throughout her life. She'll obviously grow and get bigger, and as she gets bigger, those spots will become more and more faded. Some Natal spurfowls calling there. There's a few crested franklins in the road as well. Swainson spurfowl also calling in the back there now. And then the males, so the males that are born with these lighter spots, as they get older and as their testosterone starts to develop, you'll see them start to turn quite a lot darker as they get bigger, and you'll see a fully grown mature male or a bull will be quite dark in color, much darker than the females, much bigger than the females as well. I mean, the female, the mother of this calf, has obviously moved off, found herself quite a good tree to be feeding on. Not far away, probably about 15 or 20 meters. Does it look like a Natal spurfowl that flew out of the tree? I'm very sure that was the one that was calling on our left-hand side a moment ago as well. There's also a few crested franklins, Odie, just in the road, kind of preening and grooming themselves this morning. Keeping a good lookout. I mean, the giraffe will keep a listen out of franklins and spurfowls. They're quite observant birds, and you'll see if they do see danger or a threat, they'll make this alarm call, and that'll put that giraffe on edge. You see how, I mean, they're always looking around, that giraffe as well, always looking around and listening. And if a spurfowl starts to alarm call, put that giraffe on edge. Giraffes, on the other hand, they don't make any noise. I mean, most of these animals have an alarm system of sorts, and most of them, it is a noise to kind of alert everyone else. Giraffes, they don't make an alarm noise. They almost have an alarm stare. And with that vantage point, they've got incredibly good eyesight, and they rely mostly on their eyesight to spot danger from that great vantage point above the trees. And if they do see a lion, even a leopard, they will stop and stare. And that'll be a sign that those franklins and ourselves will look out for and see if we can spot danger or predators out here. I mean, it's always, when on foot and things like that, if you can use the wind and cover to get close to a giraffe without it seeing you, you've done an incredibly good job. It's often a good idea, actually, to not walk directly at the giraffe, but make yourself known so that it can watch you. And as it's watching you, can often get quite close to them. They're quite amazing and quite inquisitive as well. They'll put themselves in a position where they'll be able to watch you very carefully and very closely. And they'll only really run away if you get very close and put too much pressure on them. Otherwise, they're very happy to watch from a distance, as long as they know they've got that advantage of being a few meters away and gives them enough time to run away. I'm going to keep going along the road here, see what else we can find. In the meantime, I'm going to send you over to Lauren at Djuma.
I think we have a little bee-eater for you. A gorgeous bird. I'm just looking through my binos, bear with me. Yes, definitely a little bee-eater, glinting in the sunlight. It's very red. It's got a very red sheen to it, and I love these birds. They are, of course, part of the bee-eater family, those that eat the bees. But you get all different types of bee-eaters. You get the carmine. You get the white-fronted, the European. You get lots of different bee-eaters, not all in this area, but it's a large family, a Oh, okay. I don't have a monitor, so I didn't realize that Umpo didn't have this bird. You need to let me know. It's right there. At 10 o'clock. You got it? It's very difficult without a monitor, everyone. I do not know what you guys are looking at. Okay, Umpo doesn't see this bird, so here's 9 o'clock, and then we're going to just go to 10 o'clock. It's perched on the end of the branch, and it's glinting. Can you see it? Okay, now we have it. We did have it perfectly positioned for you, but of course once you hear live, naturally it flies away. So the little bee-eater is one of the smallest of the bee-eater family, but they're very obvious from their sort of shape of beak. You just need to see that long curvature and you know exactly that it's a bee-eater. It's not just bees they eat, but they're very, very good at catching most flying insects, if you like, and they take them on the wing, which means they literally catch them out of the air. They're also very famous for eating dragonflies, wasps. It's not just bees, but bees are their favorite. But the little bee-eaters are fairly common out here. It's the carmines that come for summer. They're the ones that are not so common. We managed to have some fantastic sightings with them up in Povosuk. And Andrew's sighting just sounds incredible. I wish I could see it, Shadulu and Kara. But Kara's now well over 2 years. She was born in December 2018. So she's now coming up for around about a year and 2 months or a year and 3 months. And that's interesting. It's interesting to see she's still having interactions with her mother. The last time I was here, I had Shadulu and Kara up a tree in Simbambili, and it was a very aggressive encounter. And Kara hurt her mother. She injured her mother. Shadulu was bleeding. It wasn't anything serious, but it was not a nice encounter whatsoever. Normally, female leopards, as we were discussing yesterday, start to go to independence about 18 months. So this is fascinating. So I'm going to continue scratching around Chitwa and see what else I can find.
Good luck, Lauren. I hope you come right at that side. We have once again managed to find our juvenile martial eagle that we left last night so that it could go back to its meal, which turned out actually at the end of the day, because one of the eco-training vehicles managed to catch up with it as well a bit later. It retrieved its meal, and it turned out to be a monitor lizard and not a scrub hare. But to be honest, I didn't actually get a proper look at it. We had a moment of seeing something on the floor that it flew away from. Then we reversed back so as to give it space, and they are very good at catching monitors. It was actually perched in the tree feeding on it. So we were discussing yesterday the big 6 birds, and we never got to finish the discussion. That's the martial eagle, Pell's fishing owl, the saddlebill stork, the lappet-faced vulture, the southern ground hornbill, and the Kori bustard. Now here we've seen the martial, we've seen the southern ground hornbill. The Olifants is just up the way, the Olifants River, and it's a very good place for Pell's. Gert has still not seen a Pell's fishing owl. We're going to have to remedy that. I've got a few trails booked in Pafuri this year, and Pafuri on the Levuva River is a wonderful place to see the Pell's fishing owl. And of course it's a wonderful place also to see elephants, as is eco-training Pridelands. Now Gert has anticipated that this little guy is going to come and give us a hard time. Just the way he's sort of meandering towards us. Maybe he likes the sound of my voice. I find often with elephant bulls, they just this is a different one from the one we saw just before, I think. Maybe it's the same. I find elephant bulls actually quite like to sometimes come and hang out with you. Get a bit bored and a bit lonely on their own. You know, they're not always tolerated by breeding herds, and they're not always hanging out with other bulls. So I've had many times in the past bulls like this sort of size will come. Yeah, it's the same guy, I can tell, because he's pooed on the back of his leg. Quite a characteristic feature. Still slowly meandering towards the water. There was another bull in front that actually came out onto the road and started moving. But we were quite interested in checking in on this martial eagle, but we shall follow our elephants and see if they do indeed go on and drink.
There are millions of people and animals around the world that call forests their home. From the gorillas in the bamboo forests of Rwanda,
about 10 feet away from a silverback bear,
to the elephants in the Congo rainforest.
There's a really big chance that this elephant has never been seen by another human being before.
This World Wildlife Day celebrates forests, forest species, and the countless livelihoods they sustain.
We stopped as the dusk was settling, and there was a zebra mare underneath the bush. She was lying down. We didn't really know what was happening, and then we saw it.
Everybody, there's a zebra giving birth there. There's a zebra giving birth. This is a zebra giving birth. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, you clever mare. Well done. It's born, everyone. It's born and it's alive and it looks fine.
This was, of course, an unusual sighting. Normally, herbivores like impala and wildebeest and zebra will give birth during the middle of the day. This is when their predators like lions and hyenas are fast asleep. But as this little foal took its first steps, the dying embers of the day had just gone over the western horizon, and it was just the time that the hyenas and lions were starting to get active and go out foraging. This is why we didn't light up the sighting, of course. It may have compromised the zebra's eyes and at the same time attracted those hyenas and lions to the activity.
Hi, my name is Tristan Dix, and I am a guide here at Djuma Private Game Reserve for Wild Earth. We love connecting you to the African bush, and we always look forward to all of your questions. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, you'll need to register on the website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit a question below the live feed. Catch up with me on Wild Earth.
Something very, very interesting. I didn't plan this, but this is a scene rarely seen. This is what we call a journey of giraffe. So beautiful.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
And we still have a Kara. As you can see, it looks like she's gonna make her way down from this tree. Just gonna see how she's gonna do it. Was not actually much happening since she was just on that branches all the time. She's heading back from where she was. Again, right in the same spot. correct. You're asking if I ever seen two cats in the same trees, in the same kill at the same time. I seen a leopard where it was still raising her cubs. Quite a lot of sighting that I have seen. And then twice I have seen a male leopard in Mvula, where he was actually going to steal from Quarantine, the young male, that time. So Quarantine went down because he was overpowered by the father. So they don't actually tolerate each other once they're independent. The males also is the same with the females. When they're all independent, they're all just gonna roam around on their own separately. So that was only that Mvula with his son, but the minute Mvula got up in a tree, so Quarantine jumped off to give his father a chance, though he didn't like it, to share. But it's quite common when a female still raising her cubs. You see them in the same tree, but feeding method is different. Where even though there are 3 cats in the same area, mother had 2 cubs, when it comes to the feeding, they take turns. So each one go first and then move off. The second one will return. Finally, the mother will return, so they never compete. So I'm going to stay put with our beautiful Kara. I'm going to be sending you across to Steve.
Thanks, Andrew. We've caught up with a herd of elephants now. There was another bull, quite a big one, that looked like he was just coming into must. Now this very relaxed herd just feeding under the shade of these tall tambuti trees. I think it's going to be an elephant kind of morning. It's at least 15 of them, possibly 2 herds that have joined together. A few little youngsters that just went ahead of us in the road. We're going to move as they are moving. Let's just try to reposition ourselves. A few little sort of young adolescents, all about the same age. Always quite fun to spend time with them. Little cousins and siblings meeting each other, hanging out. A lot of time for social activity. Let's see if we can catch up with them over here. We've got part of the group on the right with a couple bulls, and then a few of the females in front. There's an older sibling giving the younger one a hard time. Oh, that's it's a bit early in the morning. You can see now why young bulls get to a certain age and they get pushed out of the herd, because they start showing sexual interest in the females. And well, obviously there's interest when there's pheromones and there's hormones and all of that, but you can't be having your young boys mating with your daughters in the herd. They aren't quite there yet. They need to go off and learn how to be a man in the terms of elephants, learn dominance. But what you saw there with that elephant mounting that little youngster is kind of what you see with really large elephant bulls mating with young cows. Rosemary, I'm not really certain. I mean, I don't actually think I've ever seen it happen. I've seen sort of attempted matings. A big bull will follow a herd, and I think it's a once-off deal. Once they've mated, then off he goes to find the next one. So a female that's an estrus, generally calving interval every 3 years. So during that period of having a calf and the suckling and weaning part that takes place, there's no mating. And then she comes into estrus again after 3 years or so. And I suppose the mating's pretty brief. It's not the easiest of processes, large bull elephants mounting females. There's a lot of weight, a lot of stress, I'm sure. Okay, let's move up again. Maybe we'll get a better angle. But very relaxed. I was chatting with one of the eco-training students last night, and he was telling me how he's still not quite sure about elephants. I was giving a little rundown, like I do with all of you. And when you find the babies out and about and the animals feeding, everything's good. You go a little bit closer. Well, on that note, we're going to still keep following this herd. Let me send you over to Ambion Phinda to say good morning.
A rather late good morning, but good morning nonetheless from Anbion Phinda Private Game Reserve, where we found a beautiful lilac-breasted roller perched on a little dead stick, slightly puffed up. See how fluffed up his feathers are? And looking around, scanning the long grass for any signs of prey. My name's Damon, and behind the camera this morning we've got Craig, and we've come back to the open grasslands. We spent the morning trying to track down that pride of lions that we were with in the twilight of yesterday's evening, without any luck, unfortunately. So we've come back to these grasslands. We saw in the distance what looked like that same group of elephant bulls from yesterday afternoon. So we're going to quickly go past there and see if we can't try and get you a better view of that big tusker. And then after that, I think the plan will be to try and find yesterday afternoon. There were a few vehicles in this area looking for a mother cheetah and her cub. They didn't have any success, so I think we'll maybe go and try and take over from where they left off and see if we can't have a bit of luck. The grass is, as I've said repeatedly in the last two drives, very, very, very long. And so if a cheetah is not sitting up or walking on the road, it's going to be very tough to try and spot one. But we'll keep an eye on the open patches of soil on the road, see if there's any tracks. Pay careful attention to all the herbivores in the area, the zebras, the wildebeest, the giraffes. Watch their body language very carefully, and hopefully we can try and find her. But in the meantime, it's not often that we get to see these lilac-breasted rollers. There's only a very few parts of the reserve where the habitat is quite right for them. They tend to be rather uncommon throughout most of the areas at Ambion Phinda. So nice to be able to get to see one of these lilac-breasted rollers sitting out in the open like this. We're going to leave it though and continue towards those elephants. Let's go back to those leopards with Andrew at Djuma.
Beautiful. So we still have the car is still lying down in that very same position. I think it's something to do with the beautiful shade that is in there as the sun is already coming up a little bit. Oops, looks like she's a little alert. When now her mother move off permanently. So we're just going to see if she's going to hang around here or she's going to move. so. That beetle that I saw looks like a little bit of expand, so whatever she eaten, and maybe she will be interested on maybe follow behind the mother, or she will just gonna take it easy, take her own way out of this area. Thinking, so you're asking if the young leopard ever take over their parents' territory. So, and many times what happened, the female, the mother, she would be polite enough if she have enough space to accommodate or to make a little gap for her daughter, for herself to establish. So she will give a little bit of portion of her territory to her daughter. In that way, and that's why what we've seen here, she's very strictly on not letting this young female to overpower her, or this is a serious warning that if she ever given her already that portion, so this is the call that you must stay in your area, not to follow me around anymore. That could happen. Leopard can take territory from one another. Males, it's about the same. When the father comes weaker, another male will come in, push it off, but slightly rare for a son to take over because it means that he would dominate if it ever happened. The son then, once he pushed his father, it means more likely to dominate the mother around within that area. So if that ever happened, that young male will make sure you push his mother away so that an unknown other female will come into the area to start to reproduce. Remember, they don't actually interbreed. So that's all about avoiding that situation of interbreeding species. Everyone, you're very much right. And you're very right about that you're saying you love Kara. And we also, and we're so fortunate to have her around here. But the western boundary is not far away, which the mother already crossed over to the western boundary. We're on Trembley M slightly, close to the Gary Gate. So we'll try and keep up with her. Unless if she moves into a very wet area, of course. So we're going to stay put with Kara. We can be sending you across to Penda.
Craig and I have managed to catch up with these elephant bulls that we could see from a distance. For the time being, there's only 3 that we can see. And yesterday in this area there were about 10. For those of you that were watching the show, you may remember that. And so far, there's no sign of that big tusker that I was talking about. These 3 bulls in front of us often talk about the diameter of the tusks, the diameter of the base of the trunk, and kind of how lanky the elephant looks, being an indication of an elephant bull's age. And so these three bulls kind of in the transition phase from kind of lanky, skinny young adult into bull in his prime, so to speak. Have a look at this one in the middle, everybody. The one that's just to the front and slightly to the left, standing side on, flapping his ears. But look at that right ear of his. Can you see that V-shaped notch in the skin of his ear? Quite a distinctive feature. And we spoke yesterday about that big tusker and how he had that very distinctive kind of nick in the top of his left ear. This kind of V-shaped tear, quite a characteristic feature of this bull. Maybe caused by him walking through some bushes, maybe catching his ear on a sharp stick or something like that. Obviously that skin is very thin compared to the skin on the rest of his body. Much softer. I don't know if any of you have ever had the chance to touch an elephant. If you have, you'll know that most of the skin on the elephant is exceptionally tough and strong. Hard to believe that it's a living animal that you're touching. But then by contrast, the ears, especially the backs of the ears, where there's all those veins close to the surface, skin is very soft, very thin. There we go, turning his body, or turning around, facing his rear end towards us. And now that he's done that, have a look on his back. I'm using my binoculars, and you guys can use the zoom of the camera. I don't know if you can see all those bits of grass and the bits of leaves, and also all of that reddish brown earth. And as these elephants have been feeding, we've been watching them in between trunkfuls of grass that they're shoveling into their mouths. Excuse me. They've been throwing dust over their backs. We saw that roller earlier and said that it was quite puffed up. Had its feathers kind of all ruffled up, trying to keep warm against the, I won't say cold, but there's a cooling breeze, should I say, it's blowing. And for that little bird, the little roller, it's obviously much more likely to get cold than this enormous elephant. The sun is shining though, and it's getting pretty bright and pretty intense, and I can feel it on my face. My face is starting to get quite hot. And just imagining this enormous elephant, this enormous creature, and how big his body is, I can only imagine how that sun must be starting to burn a little bit on his back, being so exposed out here in the plains. So that's why he's throwing that dust onto his back. Crystal, you're asking if the elephants will feel it when they get torn. Crystal, I'm sure they can feel it, but whether or not it's painful to them, I'm not quite sure. I've never seen an elephant bleeding out of its bleeding out of its ear. And I think that those tears tend to happen towards the extremity or the far outskirts of the ears, away from those big blood vessels. I don't know if you're able to hear that loud exhalation. There's a younger bull that's in front of us and to the right. It sounded like he was just blowing out of his trunk. Maybe got a bit of dust in there or something in his trunk that he didn't like. But yeah, Crystal, I would presume they can feel it, especially a rip or a tear the size of that one. But whether or not it's something that's really painful to them, I don't know. I've seen pictures of elephant bulls that have ripped their ears really badly, like this one that we were looking at earlier with his little notch in his ear. It's quite big, but it's not too bad. I've seen a picture of an elephant bull where the tear went all the way to where his actual eustachian tube is, where his ear, the entry into his actual ear was. So a massive tear, and that surely must have gone past some blood vessels, gone through some blood vessels. And so perhaps when he actually had the incident. Perhaps he did bleed quite badly and perhaps it was quite sore. But it looks like one of the bulls from the left is approaching. He's busy cleaning his ear with his trunk. Obviously had enough of feeding on that little clump of grass that he was eating, coming to investigate what his companions are eating. See if maybe there's some better food here. And he was standing quite still up until now. And we've spoken extensively about how elephants, because of how poor their digestive systems are and how big they are, they've got to spend a lot of time, or most of their day, moving around and feeding to get enough to eat to sustain their bulk. But I think now at the moment, with the abundance of grass, and I mean most of these grasses in this area are super palatable, super nutritious grass species, very high in protein content. So these elephants are being afforded more time to rest, to relax. And that seems to be what that bull was doing earlier, just kind of standing there. Not eating, just standing. But lovely to get to see these elephants again, and it's just so special to see them in a grassland like this, with the mountains and hills rolling off into the distance behind them. Craig and I are going to spend a little bit longer here in the hope that we get to see that big tusker. We might reposition slightly just to get the chance to use our binoculars, and if we do see him, we'll be sure to let you know.
On a bushwalk, we become part of the natural landscape. Walking enables access to the smaller parts of nature, such as bugs, spiders, and flowers in much greater detail.
These are the wing buds right here. Isn't it just amazing?
I've never seen anything like this before. It is so beautiful. Look at those little legs.
Now, it's your turn to go on a bushwalk. Join us from Pridelands as we reconnect to the place that first taught us how to be human.
Converging game path will invariably lead you to a water source, but treat all water as suspect. One of my favorite ways of purifying water is to filter out the particulates. And by just filtering it through your sock, you can clear out most of those. You can put water into a snail shell and you can boil it over a fire or using a chemical like chlorine or colloidal silver.
I'm Nikki here at Ambion Ngala in South Africa. I love getting questions from viewers about all the small things within the environment and how it all is integrated with one another. If you want to ask me any questions, please simply register with the Wild Earth website, head across to the Live Safari page and then post your questions there. I'm looking forward to chatting to you on my next Wild Earth drive.
This is a battle of two great carnivores of the African wilderness. Whew. Whoa! You don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Africa is very special, and when you come down here, even when you're watching through our camera, the landscapes that change from desert to bushveld to up in the Masai Mara where there's grassland. That means that the biodiversity changes as we move along Africa. And what I love most about connecting with you guys is the fact that I get to share these wonderful experiences with thousands of people.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth.
Welcome back to Leopard Dam, everybody, and I'm just going to allow you in silence to enjoy this beautiful, beautiful scene. Not, I suppose missing a tail has disadvantages. I mean, it's there for a reason, isn't it, after all? Definitely huge amounts of elephant behavior is read by their tail. So their tail kind of is an indicator of their mood. And it also keeps the flies away from sort of the nethers. They don't use it for balance or anything like that, but there's definitely communication. Signals and cues. And we've learned to read the cues of elephants' tails, no doubt they have as well. Okay, you can see that bull is stopped because there's a few bulls walking towards him. Let's see how they react with each other. He's just standing all on his own on the side there, trying to be quiet, trying not to influence. And now we're going to see submissive behavior. The bull on the left is going to turn his shoulder and say, I'm not here to cause trouble. It is submissive behavior in elephants. Always the bigger outcompetes the smaller. And now the other bull is going to take his place at the drinking trough. And I picked that up on the fact that elephant stopped flapping his ears and his tail stopped moving. So he was thinking. And then by looking at that behavior change, observe what's happening around, and you can see the cues. Now, if you happen to encounter elephants and they seem to change their behavior, it might be due to you, then you need to stop what you're doing. So behavioral changes are very subtle when you're not used to them. But you can see now he's turned completely off to the side going, oh, I was just here drinking, but that guy's going to drink in my place. But relaxed once again, both tails are sort of moving. And as soon as the bull who's drinking now moves, he's going to deliberately go back to the exact same spot to drink. You might see him just lifting his trunk. He's sniffing. These animals have huge amounts of body behavior, body language that we can read into. Someone's measured they can fit about 10 gallons of water in the trunk. It's a lot of water. If I'm not mistaken, it was 10 liters. 10 gallons sounds like a lot. Now, another bigger bull has arrived on the scene. Todd, I love everything about elephants. Everything. I love how enormous they are and yet how gentle they can be. I was woken in the night to an elephant walking past my tent, and it almost seemed like something was dragging something past me. Sorry, can we go back to that elephant on the left now? So he's going exactly to where that other bull, where he was drinking before. I just love reading the behavior, Todd. Love reading the behavior, love watching the little subtle signs. And so I was woken to this like dragging noise, and I just looked out the flap of my tent, and the elephant walked a few centimeters past my tent. Thankfully, it didn't stand on me. I've never been stood on before by an elephant, otherwise I probably wouldn't be here. So you see how he goes back to the exact spot he was drinking at before. There's very human-like behavior we find in elephants. There we go, now he's turning again. Let's see if there's a change. No, they're friends now. No, you see the change. It's just like humans. That's the way I want to drink. Okay. Then when he turns away, he goes back to the exact spot. There's plenty of other places to drink at, but deliberately wants to go and drink there. You see it with children all the time. I want to play with that toy. No, I want to play with that toy. There's 500 toys lying around, but they all want to play with the exact one, because that's the one the other one's playing with. So you can read lots and lots into the behavior of elephants, and obviously anthropomorphizing is obviously something we do, but these are sentient beings. These animals behave in beautiful ways. Here comes another bull. Let's see how these two react. The one in the middle still the bigger and dominant. They are beautiful creatures, enormous power, and yet incredibly gentle. So I enjoy that a lot about elephants. And the fact that they allow us to view them and to spend time with them and to get up close and personal is a true blessing in my opinion. It is beautiful, Courtney. I can't agree more. So those are 4 bulls you can see sort of towards the water. Small breeding herd up at the back, their little nucleus. Another female entering frame with her small nucleus of... Now we're going to see another little interaction here between these bulls. Let's see. You can see it happening. You see the change. You see now he's showing himself. He obviously knows that maybe there's a little bit of competition between the two. You know, maybe you've seen it on the school grounds where there's that big bully or big boy who just walks up and just takes what he wants from smaller boys, and you get those sort of evenly matched boys who it's a competition rather than a dominance. Although there's always dominance being exerted, it's less of a giving way. And so they'll often stand their ground. It's a battle of wills, battle of egos. And the bigger always wins. Unfortunately, the underdog. We always support the underdog, but when it comes to weight is everything. Now, there's going to be a bit of pushing and shoving, as always with boys, and they clearly know each other. You can see there's sort of affection in that touch. See, once again, the tails are very relaxed, sort of pushing their heads up against each other. The tusks, which could deal lethal blows, are gently placed on the side. And the younger bull that we saw originally has continued to stand with his back to the others, almost as if he's sulking. There we go. Once again, he's getting a little nudge. It's clearly a dominance game. Here, look at the tail. He's gone nice and stiff, saying, I don't like it. But we're going to stay here with the elephants for as long as we can. In the meantime, send you over to Tswali Kalahari.
Good morning and welcome to Tswalu. We have spent most of the morning attempting to track the Southern Pride, and we have finally found them just being typical lions, lounging up there. And, oh, that's a good stretch. That little guy's seen something. So we'll just... So you're with me, Deirdre, and BK on camera, and we're going to watch this little guy. He's seen something. I don't know what he's seen. He's probably seen a little... a squirrel or something. There was an impala in the distance that's kept his distance, that keeps snorting at these lions, but I mean the impala can see them clearly, so he's not going to allow them to come too close. But this little chap has seen something moving. I'd probably say either a bird or a squirrel, and it's taken his interest. So yeah, I don't know. They've walked pretty far overnight, these lions, so They've just come to the water. We tried every other water hole and finally found them at this one. They've kept us busy searching this morning. And she sees something. Her behaviour's also changed. The adult female in the middle, she's pricked up her head and she's having a good look. So lying at the water hole sometimes is good for them in that they wait until animals come to them. They're lying quite exposed though, so it's not like they're using cover or anything. So I doubt that the animals are going to come too close while the lions are here. But that doesn't mean that they can't slink off through the thickets and attempt to grab somebody from there. So this is each lioness has 3 cubs. We've got the 3 older ones are at least 6 months. They said 6.5 now, and the younger one's going to about 3.5 months at this stage. If she doesn't, I'm just gonna. the lapwings are not too impressed by the approach of the lion at the water, so we'll just go. We'll get you a better view. Just have to go over the. She's just quite thirsty, having a nice drink. You can actually see it takes quite a bit. They have to almost lap the water up using their tongue. I can actually hear her. So we're going to send you across to Phinda. We'll stick with them and see what they get up to this morning.
Welcome back to Ambion Phinda. Craig and I spotted another elephant bull in the distance, and as we were driving towards him, the road in front of us started moving. And that's exactly the sight that you've now got in front of you now. Look at all these little African bullfrogs that are hopping down the road, and it's absolutely incredible. When you hear about a plague of frogs, this is exactly what I imagine. There's, as far as the eye can see down this road in front of us, it looks like moving, hopping pebbles, as there must be hundreds, if not thousands, of these little juvenile African bullfrogs hopping up the road towards us. No doubt moving from that, there's a big pan of water in front of us, and they're no doubt moving from there, heading out into the grassland in search of food. Now, of course, these little frogs, by now, they have left the water, obviously, and they will be quite independent of it for now. But they'll have voracious appetites. They'll be out looking for little things to eat, insects, little crickets, grasshoppers, those kind of things. Trying to grow or eat as much as possible, grow as much as possible, and gain as much condition as possible, because pretty soon, to escape the harsh conditions of the coming winter, they'll kind of bury themselves into the ground and start to estivate, which is, I suppose, kind of a bit like hibernation, trying to escape the harsh conditions that normally come with bad times of the year. So winter time here, there won't be many insects for them to eat. It'll be cold, and so these frogs will survive that by burying themselves into the ground, slowing down their heart rates, conserving energy, conserving moisture as well by forming a bit of a cocoon around themselves that keeps their skin moist. And then hopefully next year we have rains that are as good as they've been this year, and they'll re-emerge. But literally everywhere around me, if I look to my right into the grass is moving with these frogs. And with the abundance of frogs here, there's all kinds of birds that are moving through the area, feeding on them. Donnie, you're asking how big they are. Donnie, these ones are quite small. They're probably about the size of the first digit of my thumb, but they're still pretty young. They would have hatched this year, or a few weeks ago, maybe not even that long ago. With them being animals that rely on seasonal pans. So these bullfrogs will emerge and breed after a heavy downpour of rain, and they'll go and find a temporary little pool of water, and they'll mate and they'll spawn in that little pan. And those tadpoles will apparently metamorphose in only about 30 days. So about 30 days after hatching, they won't be tadpoles anymore. They'll be little frogs hopping around on the ground. So they grow very quickly. And even though now they're quite small, by the time they're fully grown, they could be, I think, about 15 centimeters long. Is about the biggest that I've seen. So quite a big frog. Not as big as the giant bullfrogs that we get further inland, the ones that you might have been able to see around Tswalu, the ones that we get up in the Highveld of South Africa. Those get quite a bit bigger, but the reproductive strategy and life strategy is quite similar. I cannot get over the sheer number of them, though. It's obviously just a result of the amount of rain we've had and the amount of pools of water there have been all over the place. Of course, the advantage of breeding in a temporary pool of water rather than a permanent waterhole or a permanent dam or a permanent river is that in those bigger water bodies, just imagine, obviously the water sitting there over time, it will have accumulated predators like fish, catfish and tilapia that might feed on the tadpoles and even on the adult frogs, I suppose. Also more likely to attract more water birds. Whereas a little temporary pool of water, even though it's a bit more risky in that it might dry up and then leave the eggs stranded or leave the tadpoles stranded, at least if it doesn't, there's going to be a lower likelihood of those eggs or tadpoles getting eaten by fish. There are, of course, a whole host of other predators that will feed in those temporary pools, things like water scorpions. But yeah, obviously the risk is, the reward is greater than the risk. And it seems to be working for them because there's a lot of frogs on the road in front of us here. And they're passing by the vehicle underneath me. And one of the most beautiful things about these frogs when they are this age, when they're still small, like they're still young, is that these bullfrogs have the most beautiful, almost neon green chartreuse stripe that runs perfectly down the middle of their back, between their eyes. It's a bit tough to see because we are looking directly into the sun, but I don't know, if you keep watching, you might be able to just get a glimpse of that lovely neon stripe going down. Yeah, that basically, it forms almost like a fold, like the seam of a fold down the back of these bullfrogs. I've never seen this many frogs in one place. It's absolutely absurd. And I was going to say, of course, with all the frogs, there's a plethora of predators that will be after them as well. Storks. I've seen a couple of the European rollers in the area that have been swooping down and grabbing them. And of course, this many frogs, it almost has the effect of satiating all the predators, so that more of them can survive. If there was one or two frogs hopping around, the odds of them getting picked off would be pretty good. But if there's thousands of them, the predators will eat as many as they can and then be too full to eat any more. And so there'll be a large number that will survive. And it's amazing to see, the hidden abundance. When it's dry, we don't get to see this kind of thing. But after the wonderful rains that we've been having over the last few weeks, suddenly all of these fantastic creatures start to emerge. But this is really special, everybody. I've never seen this many frogs hopping around on the road like this. But I think Craig and I are going to very carefully try and go around them. And we're going to keep on moving in the direction of where we could see that other elephant bull. See if it's maybe the big tusker.
Just look at that. It is absolutely incredible. And as far as I can see, that all falls within the reserve. So it is a vast landscape, but we are gifted with these incredible things. The wildcats, the aardvark, you name it. It just keeps on delivering. It's just such an incredible privilege to be out here.
And when you think it could not get better, Mother Nature says, hold on tight.
Oh my word, that is gorgeous. We are cooking on gas this afternoon.
Have a look at what we've got. Look at how this is the best day of my gutting career so far.
We have a baby pangolin. We're just gonna go very quietly. There's your aardvark. And for those of you who've never seen one, this is one of the big safari specials on any reserve.
I'm just holding my cap because otherwise it's going to blow away, and with this storm coming towards us.
Absolutely beautiful to be able to see water flowing in this volume in the Kalahari. Oh, look at that. You can see the structural component of these flowers. It is perfect. Such a treat to be in and amongst these incredible insects. How lucky are we? You can see how close they are to the vehicle. Very curious.
Oh, you can do it! There we go. We made it over. Whew. But look at that view. That's absolutely stunning.
You can see how they're going into stalking mode. Okay, there we go. One female is going to walk straight past the car now. Absolutely stunning. Look at that. I mean, do we just not have the best jobs in the world? That was epic.
Welcome back to the pool party, where we've had a number of elephants in the water, and to go back to what I like most about elephants, it's when they swim. It must be. It is so much joy. I get a bit of a jarring feeling in my head when I hear the tusks hitting each other like that. But we had a small breeding herd of elephants walk behind us with a little baby. Couldn't have been a month old, and they walked straight through this dam. And the baby, we just saw emerge on the other side, completely wet after swimming through. Let me move back half a meter. How's that? Now, many of you have asked before, why is the water so brown and so murky? Here we go. It is being churned up probably on a daily basis by these elephants. As soon as the silt sediments on the bottom gets kicked up again. It's my first time finding elephants swimming at this dam, but Elephant Dam there by our camp and Ndlovu Dam, every single day since I've been here, maybe barring one, they've been swimming. See the one that's half dry still, that's now submerging itself, is a bit bigger than the rest. It's come into play. All of the younger ones are giving way or tacking from the back like that one just did. Now obviously there's a cooling element that happens here, everybody, but if it was just to cool down, they would do what buffalo do and just sit in the water. They are playing. They're enjoying the buoyancy that comes with the water. And there's joy, huge amounts of joy. Now, I've no doubt if we could hear it, we'd probably hear lots of noises, lots of low frequency communication happening. Because they're just having a ball of a time. When you weigh as much as an elephant does, it must be quite something These two are standing off against each other, trying to figure out the one on the right definitely bigger than the one on the left. Your snorkel's bigger than mine, and there the body language changes. In they go. Probably having a little communication about the rules. You weigh more than me, so you have to fight on 2 legs. Weighing as much as they weigh, there must be huge joy in losing that weight for a moment. Bearing in mind the elephant's lungs are attached to their spine, so when they swim, the body is actually buoyant. Just like if you hold the ball and you push it underwater, it goes underwater, but it pushes itself back to the surface. That is what the lungs do. Keep the elephant buoyant. And at the same time, the weight from the water is almost completely removed. Just going to be quiet for a moment, Lai, to listen to the splashing. So being in the water is also a good place to practice moves, because there's obviously far less weight behind the shoves and the pushes, and so there's far less damage or chance of injury. For example, when I was younger, I used to practice wrestling moves with my friend in the swimming pool. The water is very forgiving. Anna Marie, you could spend hours watching elephants. Well, I certainly could as well. It's probably one of my favorite things to witness. And I've never seen it as often as I have here on Pridelands. During the game drives during the day, there are elephants swimming in the Ndlovu Dam practically every day. And that's just the time we're there. And just like that, games are over. It's back to serious business of eating. blessed are we. Okay, well, we're going to probably spend some more time with the elephants in the meantime. Send you over to Tswalo Kalahari with some big cats.
It does sound like you are indeed blessed, seeing little frogs crossing the road and elephants swimming. What an amazing morning for a live safari. But our lions at Tswalu, they've moved around the edge of the dam, and the lionesses are now starting to think more hunting tactics, isn't that? If they move around the edge of the dam and they hide in the thicket for the day, then there's more of a chance for them to successfully hunt maybe later this afternoon. So yeah, it didn't take them long to hear my tactics. All the cubs are making their way into the thicket. And so too are the lionesses, so pretty much going to head into that nice shady area there and probably wait out the most of the day, and then this afternoon see if there is opportunity for anything that comes down to drink for them to hunt. And they would be looking for anything, zebra, wildebeest, hartebeest, gemsbok, anything in that size range that's going to come down and drink water. And that sort of thicket's also a perfect place to tell the cubs to sit and wait while they go out hunting. They don't typically take the cubs hunting with them when they're this age, but within the next 5-6 months, those older cubs are certainly going to be interested in wanting to hunt, and they are already learning and are curious about certain things, so they will start teaching them relatively soon. Donnie is asking, his question is, what is the survival rate of lion cubs in Tswalu? They actually do very, very well because they are superior predators here, and the male lions that are here are invested in all of the cubs on the reserve, so they do have very, very good protection. So not too much, there's only the 2 prides, so there's not excessive amounts of competition. They've got more than enough space. So the cub success rate does do quite well here. And when you land up in a situation of a reserve that is managed, when you've got too many lions, when they get to sort of teenager age, you do find new homes for them. So there they're heading off. That's pretty much the last 2 that are going to head into the thicket. So we definitely won't be able to get a view. Once they get into that thicket, they're just going to be very, very well hidden. So we'll probably move on and see if there's anything else that Tswalu has to offer. We're going to send you from one lion to a property named Ngala, after lions.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks, Deirdre. I mean, your lions are off into the shade, and ours are already in the shade. And we've managed to find one of the Ross males right in the riverbed. It's starting to heat up incredibly. He looks like he's pretty tired this morning as well, catching his nap right in the shade of that tree as well. Looks like he's got a really good spot right in the shade of it. Looks like a buffalo thorn. And you'll see he's quite close to where I think the lioness and 3 cubs is kind of holding her or hiding her cubs at the moment. Also quite close to where I think that other lioness who we think has given birth is around here. And it's really good to see the presence of this male around here. I mean, Deirdre was talking about survival rates of woodlands kingfishers are going mad in the background there. Talk about survival rates of cubs at Tswalu being quite high. Here, recently they've been quite high as well, the survival rate. The mothers have done an incredible job, but generally in this area it's actually quite low. And the reason I say that is because there's such competition from prides around, and we were with the Mayambula Pride last night, who's just kind of establishing a territory in the eastern part of the reserve and actually pushing west into our property. And that'll be a huge risk factor to these lions and their cubs. I mean, over the past few years, the Ross males have done a really good job. at keeping their cubs alive. And while we're mentioning it, there are 2 of those older cubs as well lying in the riverbed in front of us, very close to Dad. And I'm sure the female isn't too far away, so just using the shade of us. So another buffalo thorn, a really good place to hide little ones is in a buffalo thorn, good protection. I'm sure the female or the mother of these cubs is maybe on the bank here somewhere. If you have a look at the bellies of these cubs as well, it looks like they've eaten something as well last night. Maybe something small, although if the female is around and that male being around as well, maybe it was something a little bit bigger if these cubs got their full fair share of it. Maybe a wildebeest or a small wildebeest, maybe a kudu. And the reason, these cubs being so small, they're just around a year old. They'll be right at the back of the pecking order when it comes to the hierarchy around a carcass. And they'll get pushed away, and they'll only really be allowed to eat if there is enough food for everyone, or if they can kind of wiggle their way in and amongst the other lions while they're feeding. But that's also quite a dangerous, tricky job. And going back to the survival rate of cubs, that can often put pressure on these cubs if they try and push their luck too much around a carcass. That Ross male that we were on earlier, he was actually responsible for killing at least 1, maybe even 2 of his cubs in the previous litter around a carcass. Because they can be so aggressive and the males are so big and strong, a simple bite to the back of the neck or even to the back of a young lion can be fatal, either injuring it or breaking a leg or breaking a spine, creating these long-term injuries, which for a little cub, particularly if it's trying to keep up with the pride, is going to be very tricky. These 2 little ones as well, they're just around a year old. They should be fully weaned at the moment, so they're almost exclusively eating meat. They'd love to try and suckle for as long as they can. But I'm going to spend a bit more time here in the riverbed, see if I can find some of those other lionesses while I send you over to Andrew with his leopard.
Thanks, Dan. So we still got a kara sitting up in that right branches now, talking about lion killing their cubs, which may apply the same situation with a leopard as well, where male leopard got into a new territory and find female that she's raising another male's cubs. And of course the killing begin there, where you won't tolerate, once you dominate an area, you won't tolerate somebody else's gene pool. Wow, looks like she's gonna go down. But she's still checking around for safety before she does so. Beautiful pattern as a rosette spot the leopard has. She's on a flow. It was very quick. She's sniffing on the ground or around a tree because the mother was there earlier. She's now pacing around, kind of a communication, but her mother is gone, long gone. Oops. She's still not too sure what could be around her. We're going to try stick with her. Still got a visual. So I'm gonna stay put with her just to follow her, see how she goes. And then I'm gonna be sending you across to Lauren. Cool, sorry about that, everyone. It's a technique situations. So we still got a car, and she's now making her way west. And I'm afraid she's running, so in the way she's running, she may cross to the west into Sumbambile, and that's where Lauren is. So let me send you across to Lauren again. Oops. Sorry.
We are still following our leopard, Shadulu. We've managed to catch up with her, which is great news. And she is wandering off in the thicket. If she goes too far, unfortunately, we'll lose her. But we are on Simbambili, and we've been given permission by the management here to off-road. At this stage, with these really, really hot, sunny days, what it's depending on is where on the reserve you are. If you're sort of in the seep lines and the drainage lines, then no, you're not going to be able to drive there. You're going to get stuck, and it's also going to do a lot of damage. Whereas, if you're sort of at the very top of the Katina, the very upper parts of the slope, then naturally water drains down. So they'll be the driest parts, and they'll be the parts that you can actually drive through. So don't worry. When we're off-roading, we don't do it without the necessary permission right now. And that's only because of the water, because of the rains. Okay, Impo, I think we need to catch up quickly. It's going to be very easy to lose a leopard in this thicket, I can assure you. It's been a massive mission to get here. We do owe a lot of credit to the guys in the west. I just wanted to see if we could catch up with Shadulu. It's very interesting that she's having these interactions with Kara, and I imagine that they will be quite aggressive. They will be aggressive because Shadulu has to. Shadulu will be getting sort of ready to have another litter or mate again. She unfortunately lost her last litter, which was terribly, terribly sad. Hold on, let's see if I can get over here. And she needs to force Kara out. She can't have Kara in her territory. That's not what she needs in order to successfully raise another litter. She needs to push Kara to independence. It's really important. And the only way to do that, really, if you're a leopard, is to be aggressive. Be extremely aggressive, even if it's your own daughter, she's up ahead, to tell her, please, go now. Go, my child. Go forth. Okay, we'll try and get some other views of her, but I'm not going to follow too deep because I don't want to get stuck. I am the only presenter that's not been stuck so far. I don't think Andrew has either, actually, in Djuma. Trishala, Tristan, and Steve have all won awards lately, and I'm determined to keep it that way. So our Duchess of the West is very much heading back west. Okay, so we will try to keep up with our leopard here as long as we can, but for now, back across to Steve.
Thanks, Lauren, and good luck. I wonder who it is you found. Well, we found an elephant bull who's too cool to have swum. Maybe he's going to go swim now as he walks past this other fellow who's very dark. Shadulu, very nice. Well, see the colour difference between those two bulls. And this one, after having a lovely swim, has it decided to go and pick up as much dirt as it can and throw it on itself. Because that's what you do, everybody. You make yourself nice and wet, and then when you throw the sand on, it actually sticks to the body. Here comes another little bull. He's going to come say hello. I have a feeling this guy is going to give us a little bit of a show. Oh, sorry about my head. Here's a young bull. Just gave us a head shake. Seems like a great day for flying. Another aeroplane. Don't quite know who to look at. Every time we frame one of these elephants, the other one does a head shake. Little bachelor group of boys, always on the outskirts, following the females, taking their lead with regards to where to go, looking for guidance from a big male. And I just found a really nice dusty patch. You can see the color of the earth is very, very red. They use their foot to dig up the ground, pick it up with their trunk and then blow it all over their body, underneath the belly, on the head. Okay, well, sounds like Lauren's caught up with Shadulu. Let's send you back over to them.
She was posing perfectly for us on that fallen over tree. She's now back on the move, and I'm hoping she's going to take us to a road. If she does not take us to a road, then Impo and I may be here for the rest of the day. We've got peanut butter, Impo. We'll survive, don't worry. She's got that tail up. She's very inquisitive. There's a termite mound up ahead. I'm hoping she goes up that. And Shadulu has been seen mating with the tortoise pan male and Mulwati. So now that, very sadly, Hukamuri's not here anymore, he was a sort of great protector for her at one point. He really was, in terms of she was very much in his territory. He was the dominant male over Shadulu, and she very much resided with him. He's no longer here. Oh, here you are, darling. Okay, we've got a perfect visual of her. She is positioned in the shade. Is this okay, Impo? Or shall I go a little bit forward? There's some grass. So things have changed, things have shifted, but with the animal world, what you've got to remember is there will always be daily shifts, daily pattern shifts that we don't even notice. They'll be so minor and so slight that we don't even notice them. Then there will be seasonal shifts, always. A leopard's territory will never stay the same. It will constantly sort of move. And of course now, Hukamuri was slightly pushed out due to the pressure of other males coming in, and that's exactly how it works with leopards, sadly. So for Shadulu to survive and thrive and successfully raise more cubs, she has to now reside under the dominant male. And it seems like the tortoise pan male is really sort of taken over the West. I've never met him, but I would love to. And it's important for her to mate with the dominant male in the area so that she's safe, and it also ensures the sort of safekeeping of her offspring or her future offspring. She lost one of our last litter to a hyena, June, sadly, and we don't know about the other one, I'm afraid, but there was two and they didn't make it. So I imagine Shadulu will either be pregnant or be ready to have another litter very, very soon. And that's why she's aggressive with Kara. She knows Kara's her daughter. She absolutely knows that it's good to have your bloodline around, but she's got to push her out. Go, my child, go. She will have actually sort of left a section of her territory to Kara. And Cara's got to now navigate around that, expand that, set up her own little niche that she can call her own before she can even think about coming into the full estrus and having her own cubs. So she's been seen a lot at Sydney's Dam, and Impo and I went to Buffelshoek the other day, and unfortunately the gremlins were just out in full force. But it's a huge area, twice as big as Djuma, if not a little bit more, and there's lots of vacant areas where we don't see leopards, and what that means is that could be potential space for new leopards to come in. Kalamba doesn't seem to be using Buffelshoek as much anymore. She seems to have shifted down south. So there's room potentially for Cara up north, and that's what I'm saying. Her territorial boundary will border her mother's, that's normal. But there's space, there's room. She just needs to go find it. And she's clearly not scared of her mother from that encounter that Davy and I had on Simbambili. She slapped her mother right across the face. And when Shadulu was meeting with Mulwati, and she was obviously pregnant because she did give birth to a litter, whether it was Mulwati's or whether it was Hukamuri's, that remains to be the question. But she was meeting with Mulwati, so that kept her safe with him. And that meant she pushed further east onto Djuma with us. We were seeing Shadulu at Treehouse Dam, Pangolin Track, Twin Dams, Quarantine, all the sort of really central areas of Djuma we were finding Shadulu. She was pushing because she had been meeting with Mulwati. But now that she's been meeting with the tortoise pan male, it's just a little bit worrying that she'll spend most of her time back west. Well, it's not worrying. We just don't want that. We want her in Djuma. It's all about pressure, threats, neighbours, who's around you, where can you move. It can't be easy being a leopard out here. Now, we will do our very best to sit here in the middle of nowhere with our Duchess of the West. There are millions of people and animals around the world that call forests their home. From the gorillas in the bamboo forests of Rwanda,
about 10 feet away from a silverback gorilla,
to the elephants in the Congo rainforest.
There's a really big chance that this elephant has never been seen by another human being before.
This World Wildlife Day celebrates forests, forest species, and the countless livelihoods they sustain.
Being a safari driver requires some serious multitasking ability. You've got to be able to talk, look at the road, steer, and occasionally get the vehicle into the right gear.
Do not crash into any trees. Oh, that's a dozy.
Just jump into the car and hope for the best, and you'll see where it takes you. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm surprised they're moving as fast as that didn't go well.
Who is the best driver? Well, me, of course, although some of the cam-ops might disagree.
My name is Ross, and I'm a field guide at and beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on Wild Earth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is a call of desperation with a cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops. Oof.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
What makes and beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve so special is our massive array of habitats. And with that comes, of course, a beautiful diversity of landscapes, but also an incredible biodiversity in terms of plants, bird life and animal life, as well as, of course, our conservation success stories with cheetah, with rhinos, now with pangolins too.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth.
And we're back at Tswalu. We have a beautiful male giraffe. There's quite a few of them around, but he's the one that's the most out in the open. The rest are a little bit further back in a thicket, and we can't really see too much of them, but he's not by himself. He's in a very nice journey of giraffe. He's looking to catch up with the rest of them. So often you see on the back of their ears, they've got lots of white. That's like their follow me sign. So they can see other individuals from a long distance away with those big white ears. But also, I think in areas like here, where it's incredibly hot during the day, that white coloration would also reflect heat away from the ears, so that actually help them with their thermoregulation. He looks like he's got a bit of a crick in the neck there. It's sort of a complete turnaround. He's taken interest in something that he can see. You can almost hear him unwinding his neck. Look how he puts his ears forward so that if there is anything that he can hear, that sound would come to those ears and he'd hear what it is clearly. So he's decided no threat. He's going to move on. So here during the day for the giraffe, if it's incredibly hot in the Kalahari, they'll find a relatively large tree, but often they're taller than the large tree, and they'll land up lying down in the shade underneath the tree. So not too much of a threat. Fortunately, these guys are far enough away from those lions that they don't have to be concerned. I'm just going to reverse a bit more for BK. There we go. So he is making a move in the direction to catch up with the rest of the giraffe that are in part of the group. And they were all, interestingly enough, males, which is not uncommon. It's nice for a group of bachelors to be together. They practice fighting. They can figure out who's got a higher ranking than the others, and that's how they sort themselves out. And they have sort of a hierarchy amongst themselves, and then they'll know that the most dominant ones of those will get the breeding opportunities with the females. I stopped to eat. Maybe because there's a nice little Namakra dove just on the edge of this bush here. If it stays still, the giraffe has unfortunately moved out of our shot, but there is a tiny little Namakra dove sitting there on the top of the branch. He's just getting some nice sun on his back. And I say male because you notice that sort of black and white pattern on the back. Really tiny little doves, very pretty with their really long tail. So it's making a small little, it is calling, but it's too far away to pick up on the mic, but it's making like a woo, goo, goo. So the Namakra doves do tend to move in pairs, so it might be that the partner is relatively close by and they're just communicating with each other. Oh, hold on. you can also see in the same tree that that dove is sitting in, there's a beautiful pink flower just to the right, and that's that matchstick mistletoe. Oh, and then the giraffe pops his head up in the background. So that in the foreground, the matchstick mistletoe, nice beautiful pink flowers, and that'll be a hemiparasite that it lives off the nutrients from its host, but it can photosynthesize and produce some of its own energy by having its own leaves. We have just a beautiful look at the surrounding landscape there. You can see, try and see, there's another Namakwa dove and another giraffe on this side, BK. Maybe that giraffe is a little bit easier to see, and another Namakwa dove, so it seems like at least this giraffe sticking its head above the bushes. Oh, there's two. So, there's one female. There we go. So the male on the left, young female on the right. And you can see just the thickness of the horns, plus the one on the right with a little bit of tufted hair on the top. It's a small female, but a female nonetheless. That giraffe filled his cheeks with the leaves, busy just chewing and chewing and chewing. So the giraffe will spend most of their morning now consuming leaves as much as they can, and then in the heat, which is not far from now, it's already getting pretty toasty. They'll start looking for some shade, and then sort of cease feeding activity and go into the process of regurgitating that cud, or the food bolus, and rechewing to digest that food properly. And then late afternoon, when it gets a little bit cooler, the giraffe will then start feeding again. They don't tend to move at night at all. They tend to rather find a place where they sort of remain stationary. Their eyesight is not necessarily adapted for moving around at night, so they tend to stay in one place. I've even seen a giraffe bull get himself in the middle of a thicket, and that was where he was going to rest for the night. So he had quite good protection all around him, and he just stood in a nice thicket for the night. You can actually see the sort of the haze, the mirage on the camera screen, and that's just to show you the heat that's radiating already off the ground. I mean, we're probably in for a day today that's close on at least 30 degrees, because it is already quite nice and toasty at this time. It's already 22, but our midday is going to head up to about 32 degrees today. As he chews his way through breakfast this morning, we're going to send you across to Andrew in Djuma.
Thanks, Deirdre. So we have left Kara because she has crossed into Simbambile, and this is where Lauren is with Shidulu. So, and then I decided to leave the area. So now we're going to be checking again, see if we found anything else. Going to be checking now at Treehouse Dam, see what could be drinking there for us. I don't know if Kara is going to hook up with her mother again after that long growl at each other. Ross asking how big is Shiduli's territory. I'm not sure, but I think it's quite big because from Quarantine, which is in Djuma, across to the west, and this is where she operates. And yeah, maybe it's anything from maybe 8 square kilometers, anything like that, I think. Or could be more. And then I'm sure she don't share with many of other leopard around, except for that, you know, we got a Tlalamba that also a boundary line with her. So that's why when she come down here, she end up at Djuma and then always make her way back to the west. It makes sense that South Gary, Main, there's a Sibui also that occupied that area, but back always south, across into Malamala there. Further that, on the eastern side, there is a Tandi, which she also occupied. So we got like 3 leopards that are kind of came and, you know, boundary line of each other, his territory. So I'm gonna carry on, check around here. In the meantime, I'll be sending you across to Lauren.
We left, well, actually, Shidulu left us, to be perfectly honest. She went into that block, so I made the decision not to follow. If there's already tracks, you can see here, right next to us in Po, there's tracks. A vehicle is driven here. So as long as there's tracks being made, you can follow them. But once she starts going a little bit deeper, I don't think it's wise for us to follow. You should always try and drive into a sighting and drive out the same way. Follow your own tracks. It's not always possible, of course, but you should always try to do that. And that, oh my goodness, hold on a minute. And that minimizes the impact on the environment. But it was lovely to see Shidulu. I'm really happy I got to see her. And we are almost at One-Eyed Pan, so let's take a look and see if we can find any interesting life forms at one. Oh, maybe we're not as close as we thought we were. I apologize. can see right in front of us, some of the roads are still so waterlogged. Peter, I think an Inyala, a fully grown adult bull Inyala, Tingana. And that was I think it was 2 years ago now, and it was during the night, and I think that really blew me away. I mean, Inyalas are not small. We have two bulls in camp that are completely habituated, not through any intentional habituation. They just love our camp. And one thing that blew our minds yesterday, we were standing at the kitchen, they walked right to the kitchen, and here's the pan, and they started eating the marulas and swallowing them whole. I mean, the marula pips are big. So I'm a little bit worried about the digestive system of those Inyala, but they seem to love the marulas all the same. And they're really, really large animals, the adults. So I think when Tingana took down that bull, that was a large surprise for me. But leopards are opportunistic. So if there's a weak individual or a sick individual or slow, injured, they of course will target them. It'll be a much easier hunt. But they are powerful. Male leopards are very powerful. I'm trying to see if I can see any dragonflies for you all. I do see one, but it's in flight. Just give me a moment to see if we can see any resting on the vegetation. We all know I love a good dragonfly sighting. Do you see any, Impo? But this is one-eyed pan. It's a very famous pan in Simbambili. It's very close to Triple M, our western boundary, and lots of animals use this pan. The Nkuhumas, the Talamatis have even been seen here recently, which is quite far southwest for them. Hukamuri was always found here. Shudulu, Kara, even Nzutini. It's a really, really great pan, and of course right now it's just full. It's full to the brim. But I don't see any dragonflies, which is rather unfortunate. So let us bumble. We're going to... oh, wait, I do. Right here, Impo, right at the edge, you see that feather on the ground? If you look up on that blade of grass right at the top, I think that's a dragonfly. Am I right, or am I going crazy? You see it? So you see the feather on the ground? Yeah. So that exact blade of grass, go right up to the very top. And I think there's something sitting on that blade of grass. You see it? At the very top. Unfortunately, life is becoming very tricky without a monitor. We're getting there, but obviously not fast enough. Hopefully Mr. Marcello will fix them soon. Okay, let us bumble back to Djuma. We'll cross that boundary and see what we can find. Okay, as I bumble across to our natal grounds, we are going to send you across to Dan, who's also bumbling.
Are they coming to us? I didn't hear anything, eh? Say again? Oh, okay. Welcome back, everybody. So, just kind of driving along the road, right on the banks of the riverbed at the moment. It's super thick around here. The grass is unbelievably long, but it's heated up an incredible amount. I mean, I haven't got a thermometer on me, but it's over 30 degrees already. And with that, I'm kind of just hanging around the riverbed because there is water in there, and particularly your bigger animals like elephants and maybe some buffalo will come down towards the riverbed. Oh, there's there's an elephant in the thickest of the thick bush. Let's see if I can try and zoom it up. I mean, so you can just see the backside of it, hiding underneath it, or using the shade of that tree to cool down. I mean, doesn't even sound like it's feeding. It might be resting in that shade. If it's very lucky, there might be a few marulas that are falling off of that tree. And I mean, there's obviously lovely shade from the canopy of the tree, and just to the left of that elephant is the riverbed as well. If it needed to go and cool itself down, go towards the river, splash itself, have a drink as well. There's a bit of movement. It sounded like a piece of dung that hit the floor there. But I mean, you think it's quite strange how such a big animal, the biggest animal out here, actually disappears. I mean, it's only 30 meters away from us, and I can just see a big grey. But the odd ear flapping, common scimitar bulls are calling in the background. I'm sure, I haven't had a real close look, but just simply from behavior, I'm sure this is an elephant bull. Seems to be on its own, just taking refuge underneath the shade of that tree. You'll often see elephant bulls like this walk up to a marula like this, and I mean, over the past come January and February, it's marula fruit season, and I'm sure you guys have been watching them feasting on the marula fruits. We are kind of at the end of it, but there are the odd little fruits that are in these trees, and you'll see this elephant bull often walk right up to that tree, put his head up against the... Sorry, I was just trying to listen there. Up against the trunk of the tree and shake it, trying to shake all the fruits out. And you'll see as well, he can often sometimes just push the whole tree over just to get to a few fruits, and then he'll be meticulous about picking up individual fruits on the floor. He'll go past and he'll use that trunk. I mean, that trunk is quite amazing how it is used for pushing things over, taking things out the way, but incredibly dexterous to actually be able to pick up individual fruits. See, I don't think this elephant's going to be going too far. I mean, it looks like he's got a really good spot. You're going to lie down. Looked like he put his two front legs down there. I just saw the front half of that elephant going down. Be very interesting to see if it does lie down. I mean, elephants sleep very little, and they'll kind of use this time to kind of rest up, often leaning up against a tree. I mean, this isn't a huge elephant bull. It looks like it might be a bit younger. So it may be able to lie down and kind of catch some rest. But the bigger ones can often, when they lie down, that huge extra weight will put a lot of pressure on their rib cages and their internal organs. So they'll need to actually lie against a tree or against a termite mound to catch some rest. But even then, resting very little. I mean, some books will say they're only active for about 20 hours in a 24-hour period, or even 22 hours in a 24-hour period, meaning that they spend those 20 or 22 hours of the day feeding and moving around, looking for sustenance and looking for energy. And being such a big animal, they require lots of it. Excuse me. They've also got incredibly bad or poor digestive systems. So the food kind of passes through their bodies and comes out the other end, particularly those marula fruits. You'll see once they're feeding on them, you'll go through elephant dung at this, or not this time, a few months ago, and you'll see the amount of marula fruits in their elephant dung. There's lots of it, and it's quite important to dispersing the seeds of the marula tree. It also provides awesome food for some of the smaller animals, like squirrels. You'll see baboons sifting through elephant dung, hornbills, all sorts of things that are now being able to feed on the marula fruits that were once at the top of the tree, that the elephant might have pushed the tree over to get to, and now allowing the smaller animals to feed off of it. So it doesn't look like this elephant has been to splash himself yet. I can't see any watermarks or anything on its body. I'm sure at some point today, once it moves away from the shade of this tree, it may go down to the river, splash and wet itself, and then come back up here to maybe this shade of this marula tree or another shade of along the riverbed. The density of trees and the canopy of the trees is so thick, there's lots of shade for these big animals. Okay, so I'm going to keep going along the banks of the riverbed here, see what else we can find. Particularly, we'll get a good view along the riverbed. Maybe some animals are coming down to drink or splash themselves. I'm going to send you over to Pridelands as I keep going.
Well, thank you, Dad. We've got an elephant that's not quite in the thickets, is out in the open, just next to the road. And we're beautifully placed in the shade of a false marula tree. This one-tusked elephant is pretty much covered in mud.
and he is in the early stages of must. Quite relaxed, although he was giving us a little bit of an eye as we got a bit closer. And now he's going to hide behind the bush. So we went from an elephant in... Oh, he's going to go up the termite mound. No, he's going to feed on the grass growing around the termite mound, although he might also be smelling. That lioness from yesterday was actually around HQ last night and sort of headed in this general direction. And what we've noticed of her is she likes to climb onto termite mounds, as we've noticed with many of our cats. He was just having a little sniff there. First getting in a little bit of breakfast after what he's done, a serious mud wallow. And he's sort of heading in the general direction of that breeding herd of elephants that we spent some time with earlier. Well, Emma, it's like fighting with one sword against someone with two swords. The tusk obviously is designed to be there as a weapon, so he's missing a weapon, and so he's not as effective. Obviously, size is important as well, but having two tusks versus one is obviously 50% as effective. Obviously, he can still use that tusk for doing a lot of the feeding that he wants to. And it itself has also been worn down enormously. The other tusk probably broken off in a fight. If they do break, they do get weak points sometimes. So if he came up against a bull of the same size who had two big tusks, he would have to compete with that. I'm not saying it's not possible. He's looking at something. You see that? Body language, the trunk. There's something going on here. There might even just be something like mongoose that are popping out of the hole. Elephants don't like little things moving around their feet. Little things ferreting around on the ground.
Do you dream of traveling to a far-flung wilderness location where life continues as normal? A place where you can escape to nature and breathe. If you become a Wild Earth Explorer, then this could soon become a reality. Subscribe today and stand a chance to win regular travel prizes. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature.
Sometimes love wants to make you sing. And sometimes love wants to make you bow and fan your wings to your bow. For the southern yellow-billed hornbill, these are signs that love is in the air. These birds are destined for a season of monogamy at least. Breeding pairs are in it for the survival of their chicks. But before love commences, the male needs to woo his valentine with food in the form of nuptial gifts.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
Okay, there's another big male coming in from our left here. Another big male, look at this. This is the one. Now you're going to see sparks fly, guys. Guys, it doesn't get better than this, eh? Yes, unbelievable. Africa, I love you, eh?
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Hi, I'm Kyle, and I come to you live every day here from Tswalu, Kalahari in South Africa. My favorite bird has to be the sociable weaver. The enormous nest that they create, their survival tactics to inhabit these harsh and unforgiving environments, and as well as their complex social arrangements is truly remarkable. And the interconnectedness with the ecosystem shows us that we are too.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth.
Welcome back, everyone. Well, our elephant bull has been feeding on all the delicious vegetation, and now he's decided he's camera shy. After all that, he's now gone into the thickets. You might get another view of him as he moves. It's been an elephantastic morning. Super blessed with the elephant energy today. No doubt they will be swimming in Laurel Dam at camp as well when we get back for breakfast. Probably hear some bird calls. That loud one is the long-billed crombeck, or the Bosveld stompstaart, which is my new favorite Afrikaans bird name. Bosveld is the bushveld and stompstaart is shorttail, eh? But stompstaart sounds so much funnier than shorttail. Obviously it doesn't need a tail because it flies just around the little bushes, gleaning insects. Doesn't need too much steering for that. You can also hear a common scimitar bill. Elephants have been beautiful. Let me just reverse back half an inch so maybe we get a view of him. It is extremely warm in the sun as he has found himself some shade as well, as we saw yesterday with our elephants feeding on the vegetation underneath the trees. Gives them a moment of respite from the sun and a moment to feed on some gloriously nutritious vegetation. Now, we've been very blessed with big old Ezulweni of late, and so when we come across another elephant, we almost take for granted the size, because you immediately look at the tusks, and we talk about what is important about tusks. When you see an Ezulweni, you just immediately think how impressive he is, and then you see another bull, and this fellow is probably a very similar size to him, but he doesn't have the same length of tusks, and immediately, not that you dismiss him, but you don't give him the same sort of respect. And that's exactly what happens with elephants as well. Elephants will come along and see a big bull with huge tusks, and immediately they just go, hang on, he's got the biggest weapon. I'm going to just give him respect. And so this fellow's only got one of them, so although his size is there, it'll definitely be noticed. Beautiful morning it is unfolding here in Providence. It is very warm, almost tempted to go and dip in the dam ourselves when we get home, because it's going to be one of those days today. But Gert and I are going to move off slowly back to camp as we get in preparation for what is going to be a wonderful breakfast. As soon as I said the word breakfast, my stomach started to rumble like that of an elephant. And we do hope you've enjoyed your morning with us. We certainly have enjoyed showing you all of the wonderful elephant energy, and it's been leopards and lions and all sorts from across the board. We'll see you again this afternoon from all the same locations. Until then,